Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories, brought to you by ETH. The urgency and pressure on business leaders and the incredible demands placed on them makes us often wonder how they have time for family, hobbies, or any downtime at a personal level. And let's not forget that they are mere mortals. This initiative by ETH is aimed at creating a deeper connection with them, understand their views on life and leadership, and also get a sense of what they do to unwind and recharge when they are not in business mode. It is said that one conversation can change the direction of life forever. It is also said that there is nothing better than a cup of tea to get you going. So grab your cup of tea or coffee and join me, Ivan Rodrigues, for a very exciting Cutting Chai conversation. Today, it's my pleasure to host Siddhartha Niyogi, Managing Director at O9 Solutions. Siddhartha, welcome to the ET Cutting Chai Stories.
Thank you, Ivan. Great pleasure. Honor to be here.
It's our pleasure too, Siddhartha. Okay, let me start by asking you, Siddhartha, to go down memory lane. School, college, family, how were those formative years? Were there any positive influences that shaped your foundation in those formative years, and any memories that you can share with us?
Sure. So schooling, I kind of grew up in Mumbai and Delhi mainly.
Okay.
I was till about age of nine, I was in Mumbai. I was actually in Bombay Scottish School. And then afterwards in Delhi, I was in St. Columbus. So one of the things I always say is that I studied with Amir Khan in one school and Shah Rukh Khan in the other.
And you're a celebrity, in your own right. Great.
Right. I mean, that's all I can, aspire to, nothing more than that. So,
right.
But that's what it was. And of course, I was very young in Bombay, but most of my years were in Delhi growing up. And yes, Shah Rukh Khan was in my school. He was actually a pretty famous figure because he won the Sword of Honor and that sort of thing. By the way, Siddhartha Mukherjee, who has written the book on cancer, was also in my school, and actually I knew him quite well. He was an excellent sketcher, for example. So that's the environment I had. It was a boys' school. It was a great time, frankly. And a lot of my influences started from there. I guess my main, after school, I went to IIT Delhi to do mechanical engineering, and then I went to the US to do my master's at Ohio State. But as you said, my formative years, who are my influences, all of these, my school was a very vibrant school. As you know, there were a lot of things happening. It was a boys' school, so the atmosphere is, what it's like. A lot of competition and a lot of things happening. But one of my biggest influences was always my brother. He was also he was 5 years older. Unfortunately, he's not living anymore. But
Sorry to hear that.
But he was my biggest influence. In fact, he was he came sixth in the JEE exam, for example. So he was a bit of a maths genius sort of a guy. So of course, it made it very hard for me because then I could never live up to that sort of thing. But he was always my influence in terms of my technology, my interest in science, math, etc., right? And I would say that was pretty much my main influence. Otherwise, I kind of tried to follow in his footsteps, more or less. He had gone to the US, so to me, engineering was the way to go. So at some point of time, I actually wanted to be an architect. But then I guess my math part took over and I became an engineer. But that's pretty much it. And work life, yes, obviously I've met a lot of people. I couldn't pick out any one person as such. It's just been an accumulation of so many different influences over time.
Great. It's a nice note to start. You took me down memory lane. The minute you mentioned Bombay Scottish, I was a Mahim boy and I was in St. Michael's, probably many years your senior. And yeah, we had a lot of friends were in Bombay Scottish at that time. So yeah, we meet here and we realize we have at least a Mahim connection.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. My mother used to actually go to Mahim Church, by the way.
Okay. For the Wednesday Navinas, probably. Yeah. Okay, great. Siddhartha, let's move on to the next question. When somebody looks at somebody from a technical domain like IT, the words that immediately spring to mind are words like ERP, SAP, LAN, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, cloud, and by virtue of that, sometimes people in the IT domain are branded as too technical. So my question for you is this. While the perception is that people in the IT domain are very technical, how important are people skills when it comes to those who work in the technology space?
Yeah, I don't see it as any different from any other profession, frankly speaking. Yes, I understand that we are seen as very technical. But let me just give out maybe two examples. For example, human-computer interactions, right? Even in the nature of work, is all about understanding human behavior and how people, what people want, what are their intentions, okay?
Right.
And a lot of the applications we create at the end of the day are always used by humans. It doesn't matter what we do, right? So that's where actually you, and often not understanding that creates problems. You create bad products at the end of the day. It's not only about just the algorithms behind it, right?
Sure.
So that's one aspect where you need to know people. But obviously, the industry itself is like anyone else. It's largely people are our main resources. It's not really machines at all. So management of people is an obvious area that you actually have to be people oriented. And in fact, it's a challenge, even in my company or let's say even my career. Most of us somehow shy away from dealing with the people problems. Like it to be very logical and very, but then the people who are better at people always do better in the companies at the end of the day, right? They're the people who are able to get teams, because you have to be a leader, you have to organize teams, you have to lead technology at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So it's all about people at the end of the day. I'm not able to articulate it any more than that, but it's fundamental, frankly speaking.
I think you articulated it very well. I think you summed it up in your first line itself. At the end of the day, all solutions, more or less, are created keeping people in mind, be it the end consumer, be it a B2B business, the customer, be it internal departments. And I think you answered it right there. You hit the nail on the head. So a deep understanding of people is so very important. That was a wonderful way to answer that. Thank you. May I ask you that when it comes to hiring and when you have, say, two equally qualified candidates, the experience levels are the same, the expectations in terms of salary are the same, and some other parameters. What do you do? How do you determine whom to onboard? What criteria do you use?
Well, in general, and obviously you're talking about two cases where people are almost the same in terms of their basic qualifications. But in general, what I also look for, and I would use that to differentiate in this case, is whether the people, whether someone is bringing passion into that thing. To me, over time, I've realized that that's the only thing that is sticky, right? Is there an intrinsic motivation that person A has towards what we're trying to do, as opposed to person B? And someone who has done the stuff, aced everything, but somehow does not have an opinion about the work. Or typically I'll ask a question about, so describe what you did. So tell me something you did very well. And I want to, essentially what I'm trying to understand is not whether that person was king at solving that technology or that particular algorithm, but how passionately did that person speak about it. Then I feel that, okay, this person has something a little bit more than that, right?
Yes.
They have to have an opinion as well. Again, I look for that as the differentiator. If I look at two people and I say, hey, this person, again, it comes into the passion play, right? He or she has an opinion and is sticking by it and is able to support it, and that sort of thing. And lastly, a very important is how varied are their interests. Because if that person A has only been doing that one thing, and the person B has done that one thing but has done 10 other things, then I'd look for person B.
Okay.
In fact, I would probably go for person B even if he or she was slightly lower in that thing, because I'm looking for, I think, an open mind, and because that's where I think innovation comes from. You have to look at completely left field things, right? So someone who's very much into that particular area, I tend to get a bit wary of that sort of thing.
Wonderful insights. I hope the guys watching this video will kind of pay attention to this, because these are great pointers in terms of how, prospective employers at the CXO level look at people, and not necessarily CXO level, even levels lower, especially in a field which demands innovation. So great. Thank you for sharing that with us and our audience. Wonderful. Siddhartha, pointed question: how much role has luck played in your life? Luck as a factor, or when it came to your professional life, even personal life, has it just been about qualifications, experience, and hard work?
Yeah. Well, I kind of take the attitude that Barack Obama has, which is saying it's largely luck. I am born in a particular social class in India. That's just luck, right?
Yeah.
There's a huge advantage I reap just from that, right? Or I have reaped so far. Then my parents, the kind of values they gave me, I didn't choose that. It's entirely luck that they decided I want to study. He's not going to study in any other school but Bombay College, and I know they made efforts. Same with St. Columbus. That set me on the right path. The brother they gave me, I had nothing to do with that. So I would say that it's really more than 50% of it is luck. Now, the hard work aspects, obviously, if I slacked off and I did all that thing, nothing would happen, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's important and you have to do it. And yes, I would agree that in general, all the good work, wherever I had good grades, it's largely because of work I have done at the end of the day. Because after a while, you can't just go back to just who you are. That's what you do, correct?
Sure.
It piles up at the end of the day. So that is where it is. And I've generally seen that where I've not tried to, it's kind of strange, it goes back to that Nishkam Kam thing in Indian philosophy, which is where I've not really focused too much on the end goal, but I was just kind of doing my stuff and was feeling good about the journey as well. I generally seen that I not only did I enjoy it, but I also got good results at the end, right? It's a bit of, I'm not answering your question directly, but
no, you are.
But that's what it is, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes complete sense. Siddhartha, you talked about the values, just touched upon it when it came to your parents and the values that they inculcated in you. And let me ask you as to what values are most important to you as a leader?
Okay. So as a leader, I believe the definition of a leader is kind of like the one who has to set kind of the path. He has to set a vision. He or she has to set a vision and then has to help the team achieve that vision, right? That's kind of what a leader does, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing, and it's very important in general, is are we doing the right thing? Because I think that's very critical. Do the right thing, right? And I don't mean right thing as in morally right only or something like that. I'm just saying right as in my business situation, this is the right thing to do. So it's a lot of strategic thinking involved. But obviously it includes moral thinking as well, right? If I had an opportunity to do it this way as opposed to that way, and this was a better way because I didn't have to bribe someone, obviously you choose the way which you don't have to bribe someone, things like that.
Yes.
So you have to be a role model of integrity and fairness. Very important. Because as a leader, everyone looks for that. And that culture has to be imbibed by everyone. And if you don't show that, I mean, all bets are off, right? Then below that, I would put down, do things the right way. Now I've chosen the right things to do. How do I get to it? So do it the right way. And that to me is about, actually I had a boss, by the way, I worked 3 years in China. I was in Lenovo, in Beijing.
Okay.
And I had a Chinese boss over there. He was the head of the supply chain. One of the things he used to say was, hey, first set a process, then follow the process, and then change the process. And I kind of remember that. It's very simple, and the Chinese have a good way of creating these very pithy sayings. But the point being that you got to do it the right way, which means a lot of process work. So giving people time and making them think about process, doing it correctly, and the importance of that is very important. It's not just the end goal. It's about how you get there is very important as well, right?
Sure.
And then, of course, in all of this is, it's something I've picked up lately. It's something I'm trying to work within my team as well. It's about, and I'm reading a lot of this self-determination theory. It's about intrinsic motivation. And that comes back to the passion thing I was talking, because I felt that it's about passion. So where is the intrinsic motivation? What can I instill? What can people, how can we get people to be intrinsically motivated in the work? Though very often, the work we get to is not something we originally chose at the end of the day, right? So there's a lot of thought about that. The other thing also is that as a leader, you want passion, but it's not everything is so cut and dry, right? You can't just turn on passion like that. A lot of it is very mundane stuff. There's also this issue of people, aspirations, and human beings, I think, can be good and bad, right? So this is a question about how do you control behavior, right? As a leader, how do you make sure that people are doing the right things? We know from a lot of psychological experiments that people can actually do very wrong things. So it's really the incentives and disincentives you set up control a lot of behavior, right?
Yeah.
But that's something I don't have an answer on. It's just something I think a lot about. But I do think in terms of if I can get intrinsic motivation that solves some of that problem. Things like that.
Got it. Very interesting. You talked about and just touched on, leaders setting the vision and getting the team to achieve that vision. So my next question for you is, as a leader, obviously you've got to look at long-term goals of the organization. You have your strategic plans, so on and so forth. So there is a future in mind, and you have to navigate everybody, and that's the team, towards that future. At the same time, there are employees at various levels within the organization who pretty often are interested in the here and now, which is, I'm working, there's an annual appraisal, there are monthly, quarterly, half-yearly targets, and yet there is a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, whatever that period is. So my question for you is this: how do you balance, as a leader, planning for the future while being present for your employees?
Right. Again, my Lenovo experience kind of changed my attitude towards that, because when I was in China and Lenovo, and the Chinese in general are very big on strategic planning, and you bring up the word strategic planning. I actually, towards the end of my stint in Beijing, actually became the head of the strategy and operations for the supply chain group over there. So I actually had to run an S&OP process. I had to run the annual strategic planning process. And I'd never done it before, frankly speaking. So I learned on the job over there. I learned from my colleagues and all that. But what I did find out was the immense amount of importance they placed on it, that it had to be done. So as you get into Q4, leading into next year, a whole quarter, and there is a whole process they've set up, which is you have to start putting down your objectives, do your backward-looking analysis of what went right, what went wrong, creating a SWOT. Then they had this whole thing of aligning everyone. There are different teams. You have to talk to each other and make sure your strategic goals are aligned with that other teams' strategic goals, and you converge to your final annual operating plan. So that's something I've actually kind of imbibed a lot. I really believe in it. So, in fact, I've been trying to do it every year at O9 as well. And O9 is a startup. It's difficult to, in fact, it's a very, well, it's not really a startup. Let me put it this way. It's a fast-growing company. Let me put it that way, right? In a fast-growing company, sometimes to sit down and do strategy is damn hard, because you're reacting very, very often to situations, or new situations come up. Maybe a new market is open up, maybe a new opportunity has come up, right?
Yes.
But in that process, you still try to say, okay, that's fine, but I'm still going to run my annual strategic planning process. I can change my plan. It again goes back to my Chinese boss who said, change the process. So I paraphrase it as, change the plan, make your plan. I think Mike Tyson said it, that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
So you got to make your plan, and once you get punched in the mouth, you change your plan. Okay, you thought that guy was going to do this, or this situation was going to turn out like that. So coming back to that, the importance of strategic plan is important. I run it very often. I'm not sure it's a very perfect process, or every one of my people, let's say my team members, has imbibed it. But just running the process every time, I believe, gives them a notion that this is important. The second thing is the amount of time I'm giving to it probably gives them the impression that, hey, this guy feels that it's important and he's not spending all his time on operations only. This is to me it's not like you do it all the time. You can't be doing strategy all the time. That's not strategy.
Yeah.
you do it and then you kind of operate all through. You're working on operations most of the year, but you have to keep coming back and saying, this is what you have, hey, how did I do? Right? In fact,
Yes.
O9 is in the business of planning software. So
Mm.
what happens? You plan and then you execute and then you say, is my plan good or not? And it's really the same idea. But I do also separately try to tell my people that, that at the end of the day, I'm not very, because you set up KPIs and you set up these OKRs and you do a lot of this stuff, right? Everyone does it. And I don't want to get too caught up in that as well. I try to tell them, like, we are a product company. We make products. We have releases. And I try to tell them that, look, the release is good, but are we doing the right things in the release is more important than getting the release done. Because you tend to get very caught up in your release and say, oh, I just released 25 features. And my question is, great. Now what's happening on the field? Do we see that actually having effects? So I'm always trying to tell them that, examine it, pull it back, think about it. It's okay if we miss a deadline. I think deadlines are the worst thing on earth. They create worst possible behavior, right? So I'm always trying to just tell them, don't worry about deadlines. Set it up, obviously, but don't make it so sacred that the original intention is lost. So again, a sort of long-winded answer to what you asked.
No, it isn't.
But that's the way
I get it. I mean, two comments there. I mean, thanks for introducing us to, the Chinese way of, if I may say, management process. That was a very great insight, because very often we are caught up with the Japanese way of looking at process. So that was good, set up a process, follow the process, and then change the process, which is quite amazing. And the second thing that you talked about, I remember my last company, and it made perfect sense. It hit home when you were speaking, is that sometimes all of us and our teams got so caught up with KRAs and KPIs that was the focus. And what was staring you in the face were results, sales, targets. And sometimes, it's not very easy, especially in a company that is a fledgling company that is growing, fast growing, to have perfect areas that you can actually focus on and say that this is it for the next 1 year. Things can change within a couple of months. And at the cost of what the company wanted to achieve, the KRAs and KPIs came in the way. So it made perfect sense in terms of you've got to be nimble and you've got to change that plan, because otherwise you'll keep getting punched in the face. Yeah. On to a lighter question. How do you unwind, Siddhartha? Any interests, hobbies, activities that you indulge in? And are there any items on your bucket list that are still to be fulfilled?
Yeah, I have a lot of interest, by the way, and yes, probably a big bucket list as well. But I was always interested in music. I used to play guitar. I still play guitar. I used to, in IIT, I had a rock band. And then when I went to the US, I realized that everyone over there plays rock. Actually, I realized that it's not what we think about. A whole lot of people do rap, a lot of people do rock, someone does country, someone is this, and I realized, hey, I went back to my Indian roots and I started playing Hindi songs over there.
Yeah.
So I used to be in a band over there. I used to play guitar and we used to sing Bollywood hits back
Wonderful.
then. I used to dabble with the keyboards, but my son is now 11 and I got him into piano, and suddenly I discovered this huge love for it, and I'm actually formally learning piano.
Wonderful.
My bucket list. I'm a big fan of this composer called Johann Sebastian Bach, and my bucket list is to learn and play. There is a particular piece it's called the Goldberg Variations. There are 30 variations, and that's my bucket list. I don't think I'll complete it, but I'm going to die trying. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And otherwise, yeah, I read a lot, really a lot of nonfiction. Really, I'm a huge history buff, by the way. One of the things I'm very interested in is our history of India itself.
Okay.
The fact that a lot of things are very unknown. We don't have, for example, there's a whole lack of epigraphic evidence for old Indian history. An example being the Indus Valley Civilization, where we only have those seals, but we don't know what's written on it. Yeah. So I'm very interested in that. Read a lot of history, a lot of science stuff. I do a lot of running as well, by the way.
Okay.
And in the COVID times, I discovered aerobics through YouTube. So that's kind of it. Kind of yeah, in fact, my weekends, I just try to do as much stuff as possible and forget about work. And in the weekdays, I'm busy working.
Yeah, good. May all the items on your bucket list be fulfilled sooner rather than later.
Okay, thanks.
Nice mixed bag of activities that you've got. Siddhartha, my final question to you in this segment. We still have another segment to go. Where do you think Indian organizations stand currently when it comes to developing and onboarding cutting-edge technology?
Now, it's not like I'm following a lot of organizations in a very deep level. So, but I'm just telling you what I've perceived. In general, I think I'm a bit disappointed because, as an example, ChatGPT is now the rage. So I looked up ChatGPT and I couldn't find any Indians who actually on that group. Who, all the names were non-Indian. There were Chinese, there were Greeks and whatnot. I did find some Indians in the transformer models that Google had come up. But that's an example of something. All this technology we talk about, Hive, Hadoop, all this machine learning. I don't see us Indians actually doing a lot of it, right? We are. So it's, my issue is more with the fact that we are not creating it, right? We are following it, and when you follow it, I think there's a fundamental problem. You're never going to get beyond a certain level, right? So in general, I don't think we're doing enough. I think we're too busy, caught up with business cycles, and we're growing companies. But a lot of these things require a lot of investment of time, right? And I don't think we're doing enough. I mean, a Newton or an Einstein didn't do it for money, right? And at some level, I don't think a ChatGPT, the people who are really doing it are doing it for money. It's because they have an intrinsic passion and they're really into it. The amount of time they must have spent trying to come up with that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's why we don't. We tend to skim the surface a bit. We are very good on the results that, hey, I managed to get that market. I managed to get that technology out for someone. But I feel a bit disappointed in terms of, are we really doing justice? My main issue being that we are not creating. If you don't create it, then I don't care in some sense.
Yeah, something to ponder about. Very nice. Thanks for being direct and honest. Okay, with that, Siddhartha, let's move on to another segment. This is like a rapid fire. It's called the one word, one line answer. I'm going to throw a set of fun questions at you. And I would request you to kindly answer in one word. No need for any justification. All the answers will be right answers because they are your answers. So are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, great. Kindly choose one of the following: chocolate or pickle?
Chocolate.
Okay. You said you were an avid reader, but you also schooled with Shah Rukh and Amit. So let me ask you, books or movies?
Books.
Okay. City life or village life?
City life.
Okay. Would you rather save 50 strangers or save one loved one?
Save one loved one.
Chai and biscuit or coffee and muffin?
Chai and biscuit.
Okay. Pani puri or sev puri?
Tough one. Sev puri.
Sev puri. Lassi or faluda?
Lassi.
Lassi. Okay. Siddhartha, 3 apps that you use the most.
My Gmail, Maps, and all Google. I got to pick something which is not Google next.
Okay.
Well, Outlook.
Okay. Describe your journey thus far in 3 words.
Learning, dissatisfied, hopeful. Did I get those 3 words or?
You said learning,
learning, dissatisfied,
yeah,
hopeful.
Okay. You said dissatisfied. Is it more like hungry for more kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Favorite holiday destination in India and internationally? One in India, one internationally.
In India, I think it's going to be Goa in general.
Okay.
International, it's going to be Vienna.
Okay. Which business leader do you look up to or admire the most?
Funnily enough, and it's Elon Musk.
Ah, okay. Oh, there's a question that's following which has his name, so I'm going to change that. Okay. I'll change it, don't worry. Favorite subject in school, Siddhartha?
Probably physics.
Okay. Most disliked subject in school?
Definitely geography.
It's geography. Ah, okay. My next question for you. If you were to be stuck in a room for 24 hours, whom would you choose to be stuck with? And I had 4 options for you: Elon Musk, MS Dhoni, Warren Buffett, or Julia Roberts. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace Elon Musk with, say, Sundar Pichai. Okay, so it's Sundar Pichai, MS Dhoni, Warren Buffett, or Julia Roberts.
MS Dhoni.
Okay. If you were a kitchen appliance, which one would you be and why?
Kitchen appliance.
Yeah. We get some very interesting answers whenever I've asked this question.
Well, I would like to be my oven because I really use it a lot. I really like it because I do a lot of baking, by the way, nowadays. And I guess that's the only association I have. Every other appliance.
Multi-purpose oven can bake X, Y, Z. Yeah. So multi-utility. Wonderful. Siddhartha, if your name were a logo, Siddhartha or Siddhartha Niyogi, what would its tagline be?
Well, I would just say still learning, something like that.
Nice. Very nice. Kindly complete this sentence. I'm most happy when ...
Most happy with, I think, spending time with my family.
Okay, nice. Each day I get older, I realize that ...
Yeah, what I guess my hunger just increases that I didn't do all those things and I need to now do them.
Okay, nice. Okay, final question. If you had your own talk show, Siddhartha, whom would you invite as your first guest?
First guest?
Yeah.
And it could be someone non-living as well.
Yeah, anybody, fictional, non-living.
Okay, it's got to be Johann Sebastian Bach. I'll start with him.
Okay. Wonderful. Siddhartha, I had a wonderful time chatting with you over the last 25 or 30 minutes. You shared some great insights on various aspects of life, on leadership, on teams. You gave us an insight into your life, on values that are very close to you. When I think of you and the last 25 minutes, you remind me of this quote by John Quincy Adams. And he says that if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. And you come across as that kind of leader. There's another quote that I'm reminded of when I reflect on our conversation, and that's by Tom Peters, where he says that management is about arranging and telling, whereas leadership is about nurturing and enhancing. And you come across as that leader when it comes to your team, who is very keen on nurturing and enhancing the potential of people. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Siddhartha Niyogi, Managing Director at O9 Solutions. Siddhartha, we wish you and your family and your organization the very best going forward.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Thanks for all the compliments. I'm sure I don't deserve any
you deserve it.
Thank you very much indeed. I enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.